Hi, everybody. I'm D.Lisa. I'm a dream doula.
I am Christina Spatara. I'm a psychotherapist and relationship coach.
Today, we're going to talk to you about childhood, dreams, and how children are just so themselves until life kind of crushes them down a little bit, and what we can do to gather back that childhood wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Did people ask you that when you were a kid?
Oh, all the time.
And what did you have an answer, or did you make one up?
I know, I actually had an answer. I was vacillating between medicine and teaching.
Okay, so you're like, I'm going to be a doctor or I'm going to be a teacher.
Yeah, that's what I used to tell people. Because, and again, do we consciously give kids these toys that make them play with it? Or do kids who gravitate towards it want to think that? So I had a doctor's kit. It was the coolest kit. It was a Fisher Price doctor's kit. And it had a little blood pressure thing that the little thing spun and spun when you pumped it. And then the stethoscope, you actually could hear a little bit because you actually could hear a little sound, so you can mimic a heartbeat. And then the needle thing, if you pulled it, it looked like it was like red, as if you were taking blood and stuff.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cute.
it was really cool. It had a little bottle, you could put in the needle in. It had a thermometer that you could change the temperature of. And what was really cool is you actually had numbers on the thermometer, so you could actually adjust. Because I had seen later Fisher Price kits that just had like a smiley face or frowny face. My thermometer had numbers.
Oh, so you could really tell if they had a
I
high
could really
temperature
tell.
or a low temperature.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I love that kit. I could play with it all the time. So I used to constantly be examining my stuffed animals. So yeah, I thought about being a doctor. And then I guess because I think it's also kids who you're around. Who are you around when you're a kid? You either go to the doctor or you go to school and you see the teacher. So these are the professionals that you're seeing in your life. And then the other thing I had was I would be in school, so I would see the teacher, because then I had my own slate board, I had my own blackboard. So I used to pretend I was teaching a class and I was writing the lesson down on the blackboard.
Oh, that's adorable. That reminds me of, well, I remember someone asking me, what do I want to be when I grow up? And at the moment, I was like, it never occurred to me. So I heard myself say, I'm going to be a scientist
Cool.
or maybe a spy, because I was reading
Ooh.
Harriet the Spy
Ooh.
at the time. Or maybe I'll fly airplanes or be a skipper on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I don't know, something. But I stuck with the scientist story for quite some time. I
Interesting.
remember being really interested in math and sciences when I was a young girl, and even when I went to college, it was, yes, I'm going to be a scientist. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that little children are fully, completely themselves and
Mm-hmm.
immersed in the world. I read somewhere recently that up until a certain age, and you might know what
Mm-hmm.
this age is, we are in the part of brain waves where it's the
Oh,
similar to dreaming. And
yes,
so
yes. I
little
read that
kids
too.
look like they're so spaced out all the time, but they're dreaming while they're awake. And
Right.
everything's just like, what is that?
Yes.
And so what is that? What is that brainwave? Do you know?
Is it theta? I
Sounds
want to
right.
say theta, but I could be wrong. So anyone out there who knows it better than I do, forgive me. I'm not an expert, but I want to say theta is because yeah, but that's the idea, because when we're children, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah,
So
you don't think you can't be a scientist. You don't think you
yes,
can't be an astronaut or a
right,
physicist or a fireman or whatever it is. Like, I'm going to do that.
right. Which is why
And you
you
believe
never,
it.
yes, which is why you never ever shut a kid down. Even if you think there's no human way, you do not shut them down, because you know what? Everyone who has done anything great, like if you look at these people who end up doing these great things, especially ones who have been extremely motivated their whole lives, it's because somewhere when in their younger self, they had this idea and they made it happen.
Yes. Yes. There's a certain way to really say, okay, that sounds interesting. You can do that. And
Right.
then there's another way, like, boys can't do that, or girls can't
Hmm.
do that, or
Hmm.
no, we don't do that in our family.
Right. Right.
And so it does, I don't think it takes too much of that to really shut a child down
No, it
and smash their enthusiasm for life.
exactly, because they're looking at the people around them who are taking care of them and who they rely on.
Yeah.
They're looking to these people to be their translators of the world around them.
Hmm.
So even though you may not have thought you were shutting them down, oh, well, I just wanted them to be realistic. Well, hey, okay, there's plenty of time for that. This is a
Yeah.
child. Let them have their imagination. Let them have their dreams. Let them figure out things. You know, that little girl who wanted to be a doctor or a teacher, in a way, a lot of what I do is teaching. I did
Yes.
it, I went a different road for it, but a lot of it is teaching. And I have to understand the mind, the body, and the mind and the connection. That's medicine.
Right on. So you did become what you wanted.
Yes.
Yes. It's so beautiful. It's fun to be around little tiny kids who still believe the magical thinking.
Yes.
Um,
It's beautiful.
and it's so great to listen to what they think is happening that we don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily say. Like, for example, a young girl was asked, like, why do you think your shadow is so long today in the
Mm-hmm.
late evening sun? And she said, well, I know, because the wind is blowing. Why not?
Why not?
Uh, Also, I was on a school trip with grade schoolers once, and we went past this factory that was spewing out this really steamy kind of exhaust. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the girls said, wow, that's where clouds come from.
Mm.
And
I love
the other
that.
kids are like, oh, that's not where clouds come from, Susie. But, why not? Think, clouds come from somewhere. Maybe they come right here from this factory, and then
Mm-hmm.
they float up into the sky. Or that you could be anything you want: doctor, lawyer, fireman. So, how does one reconnect with their childhood dreams and goals and loves and pull that forward into their waking adult life? How do you help people do that?
How people do that where I give them exercises where we look at when nobody's telling you what to do. What do you gravitate? We start out. What do you gravitate towards?
Okay, if
Like
you're not forced to do it for work and you're
right.
not peer pressured to do it because of your friends, what would you
Mm-hmm.
like to do? Don't
Yeah.
people normally just say, I would just want to like watch TV and drink some
Yeah. But
beer?
I said, okay. Aside from that, what else?
Okay.
Or what shows do you gravitate towards?
Ooh, okay, yeah.
You know, are you being gravitated towards a show that maybe they're doing something that you find fascinating or that always intrigued you?
What about people that like to watch horror or violence?
You know, we could look at that because I do think there can be an element of sublimation there, or an
Mm,
element of maybe they're very fearful in their waking lives. And so perhaps that gives them a chance to be brave, to face things that are
yes.
fearful in the safety of a seat rather than have to deal with some of the real life horrors that are scaring them.
Oh, that's an interesting point of view. I heard an interview with Dee Wallace. She was the actor who was the mom in E.T.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
She's a very spiritual woman. She's written several books on spirituality. And
Mm,
she said that every other movie besides E.T. that she played in was a horror movie. And I'm like, what? She plays in horror movies and she loves the horror genre because she
mm,
said people watch it and they know it's not real.
mm.
And so they can feel scared and safe at the same time.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, I read a book because Stephen King, as you know, author who's the master of horror, you know,
Indeed.
his books scared me to them, but he wrote a wonderful book on writing.
Yes, he wrote one of the best books on writing I've heard.
Yeah, he really did. This is an excellent book. And it was sort of like semi-autobiographical and just on the writing process, on what he went through. And he admitted that one of the reasons he wrote about horror was because he was scared of a lot of stuff.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
yeah, like his horror stories represented his fears, his things that he was trying to overcome and conquer. And he did it through the writing.
Mm,
Like the
wow.
movie Pet Cemetery was because where they were living, there was like this really like dangerous road. Ironically, he ended up having a horrendous accident where he got hit on that road. But when they had moved there, he used to be terrified of the kids getting hurt or killed on that road. So Pet Cemetery arose out of that fear of losing the kids to an accident on that road.
And maybe he should have listened to his intuition and moved away from that freaking
Yes.
road before he got plowed down by a van.
Yeah.
That was an interesting story. I remember him talking about that. Yes, yes. So whatever we have in childhood, maybe we bring fears forward.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we bring dreams forward. And sometimes I think when people get into an altered state, either
Mm-hmm.
through meditation or
Mm-hmm.
hypnotism or
Mm-hmm.
through some kind of psychedelic drugs, they get into the childhood state where anything is possible
Mm-hmm.
and their brain is just kind of drifting and dreaming and they see things in such a different way that it's not like what we see with our adult mind and our brain
Yes.
logically making sense of everything. It's just like maybe that factory is making clouds,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe my shadow is blowing in the wind, or whatever magical thing. Like I used to think when I was a little tiny kid, if I dreamt something, it would come true. And someone
Right.
told me when I was 10 that if you dream that you're riding a horse, you're pregnant.
Really?
I didn't know anything about sex then. So I'm like, okay, well, then one night I was like, oh no, I dreamt I was riding a horse. Am I gonna have a baby now? It's really adorable, but I was so afraid. I didn't know who to talk to. Like, should I tell my mom I'm pregnant now? I remember
Mom
thinking,
education.
Mom, I think I'm gonna have a baby because I dreamt. I don't think I told anybody. I just after a while I decided I wasn't gonna have a baby. But uh, what what beautiful things and what terrible things and what impossible things do we think of when we're a kid, and how can we
Mm-hmm.
pull that all the way to adulthood and bring back some of that magic?
Exactly.
Hmm. I'm going to ponder that for the rest of the day.
I encourage our listeners to ponder that as well.
Whatever you loved to do as a kid, I bet you still love it right now.
Mm-hmm. And have you made it part of your daily life, or is it something you've denied yourself because you think you can't, or you're not supposed to, or you're too big for that?
Right on. I had so much fun in the last couple of years going to a park with my friend who was much older than me. She was in her 80s when she passed, and we would go play on the swings.
Wonderful.
She really thought the swings were made for elders, but they were the kind you could strap into. She's like, these are for old people. I'm like, okay, let's swing them.
I love that. I love that.
Right. So if you can't do anything really childlike, like spinning around until you fall down in the grass, try go find a swing set and go swinging.
I love that. Go swing. What is that song? Would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a fish?
What is the name of that song?
I have no
Okay,
clue.
I'm gonna have to look it up and put it in the show notes.
And I'm gonna actually give a movie.
Okay.
So it's a movie based on a book called The Never Ending Story. and it's about a land that is literally dying because children have stopped using their imaginations and have stopped believing. I know, it's so sad.
That would kill our world, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And there's a little boy in it who's lost his mom. And, he's sad. He misses his mom. And his dad is telling him, that he has to be tough and, keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. And so he's very into fantasy, using his imagination. But his dad has been kind of discouraging that. We need to just kind of be strong and ready to handle what we're handling. And, but it turns out his imagination is the very thing that can save this special world of Fantasia. Is it
Ooh,
Fantasia? Yeah.
spoiler alert.
Yes. It's the way they do it is so good because the moment he finds out, we find out, and we're like, oh, it was for him all along. Sorry, I just did major spoilers, but it is a really,
Imagination.
yeah, the never ending story. And if I'm getting the name of the land wrong, forgive me, but it's called The Never Ending Story. It's from the 1980s. And it was a book, and it became this. There was a Never Ending Story book too, but the original just was really well done. And there's another movie that's very different, but makes me think of it. The movie was called Gattaca, starring a young Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. And basically, the plot of that is that in a world where babies are genetically engineered, so like they take out all impurities, all imperfections, you could still have babies the normal way, but they're called invalids. They're not valued as much as the genetically engineered ones. And it's about a young man who was considered an invalid, but he had a dream of going to space. But he was told
Mm.
he'd probably die young because of the genetic markers and all these problems. And they basically discouraged him from his dreams. And it was about him holding on to his dreams and finding a way to make it happen, regardless of what his society was telling him was impossible.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it also
Okay.
has, yes,
I'll put that in the show notes too. So 2 movies for us, Never Ending Story and Gattaca.
yes.
Thank you, Christina. So go find something childlike and childhood-esque to do.
Yes, and enjoy it. Live your life and enjoy.
Right on. Here we go.